Hi everyone, my name is Kayla Jackson and I am a co-researcher here with Texas Tech University. I am here to overview and summarize some of the data that we were able to uncover based on a survey that was shared with over 200 Texas Tech students. They come from many backgrounds and we're going to dive into what that looks like and how did those particular individuals with specific backgrounds actually respond to some of the content that we shared with them. So this survey had about 16 questions and most of them were closed-ended questions. We did have a few open-ended questions and we were able to pretty much categorize them as well, except for the last question, which is not categorized. However, we do have some summaries and some overviews of what we were able to uncover. So there was also a focus group activity that was held with just about 12 participants, and we're also going to fold some of that language and what we found there into this particular graph and representations. So with that, first question, what is your gender? So as you can see, 54% of participants identified as female and 46% of our participants identified as male. As you can see, females clearly outnumber the males, and we'll get into how those genders kind of reacted and responded in other questions. So moving forward, next question is, what is your college classification? So survey participants by college class. I've dissected each one based off of freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, and grad student. And those are those classifications that were a part of this study. And we mostly had freshmen. I mean, a lot of the classes teetered very closely together. As you can see, we have 20.5% sophomores. We have 24% seniors, juniors were 20%, freshmen were 25.5%. So there's not a lot of gaps between the particular classifications. So we're gonna find a lot of these answers, to be kind of in the same mix. We don't have a bunch of freshmen, which freshmen think totally different than seniors. So we have a good mix of classifications, and we also have a little bit of our grad students here that responded. So we have a great mix of perspectives that I think will really add value into what the findings we have. So our next question is, are you a member of a fraternity or sorority? So this is a really big question for a lot of for anyone in college. I think this is like the coming of age for college students, and as you can see, we have about 68% of participants that said no, and only 32% of our participants are affiliated with a sorority or fraternity, which is quite surprising because I know that is something that a lot of college students they desire for that. So it's actually very interesting that we have such a big gap between non-Greek affiliated students and participants versus Greek affiliated students participants. So I actually have a deeper diagram or graph representation of what that looked like, because I really wanted to uncover what college classification actually was a part of the non-Greek affiliation. So on the top right hand corner, I have college class non-affiliated with Greek organization. So as you can see, just off of a very bare minimum glance at this, you can see that a lot of our students and participants are not affiliated with Greek organizations. And I thought that that will also be interesting in uncovering how did they drink, because of, not to be stereotypical, but a lot of Greek organizations are they are usually linked to partying. So it's interesting that this particular group of people are not affiliated with Greek organizations. So it's going to be interesting what we find out later on. Freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, grad students, as you can see, most of the grad students are not affiliated. We have about 10% of them that were affiliated with Greek organizations, and we kind of see, just a really big gap between the two. The most people that are affiliated with Greek organizations are freshmen. We have that at 43% here at the bottom. And then we have sophomores and seniors. They teeter around the same numbers, 34 and 35% that are affiliated. But as you can see, most of them are not affiliated with Greek organizations. So with our next question, how many times weekly do you go out to eat for fast food? Now, the bigger question is about fast food consumptions, restaurant dining in, how much participants are drinking, and the budget that they spend doing these activities. So fast food consumptions per week, we see that overall all of the participants, a lot of them do not go out to eat. And we're going to get into income a little later, but off just blindly speaking, you could probably aim this toward not having any type of income or very low income, so they're not able to actually go out to eat. And as you can see, once we get honestly like higher in the range of once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, even 7, it just goes lower. So for each time it goes lower and lower. So you could link this to having low income, not having a lot of time, or just pretty much just not being able to afford going out to eat or even consuming fast food. So we see most people are not going out to eat at all throughout the week. Okay, so how many times weekly do you go out to eat to a sit-down restaurant? So similar to what we just learned from fast food consumptions, a lot of people do not go out to eat even for dine-in experiences per week. We can see over 50% of the participants said none, and we teeter down to 20%, 9%. And it was interesting that we had a higher amount of people who were going 3 times a week out to eat. So interesting enough, but I wanted to uncover, since there was like this fluctuation going back up to 3 times a week, did it matter if a specific classification was going out to eat versus another one? So going into this data, I have freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and grad students. And as you can see that there's a lot of fluctuation here, where we still see freshmen, they tend to go out, they tend not to go out. So we have the higher side of going out to eat either not at all, or our highest point, which is going out twice a week. So, that may be linked to wanting to explore the city, or the town, wanting to explore the options that they have available. A lot of freshmen have a lot of free time, so I could see that being a motivator of actually trying to go out and just experience what early adulthood feels like. Juniors also eat out about twice a week as well, so they score pretty high on eating out on a higher end of each week. And our seniors go out about once a week, so they're probably either studying or working, so there's not a lot of time to do those type of things except on the weekend, which I'm thinking would be that once, what that once would look like for them. And our grad students don't really go out to eat, surprisingly, because I know a lot of grad students are they differ in age, so it's going to be interesting what we learn more about these particular classifications. Okay, so next question is, do you have alcoholic drinks when you go out to eat? Most people say yes. I think as people are getting older, they're going to want to drink more, they're going to want to experience more. And I was really interested in learning about which particular class actually drank the most. And not surprising enough, I have this data right here on your right hand side. Not surprising enough, freshmen do not drink. 48% of them said they don't. So that was interesting to me. And then we have about and actually going toward the other side of this, grad students are most likely to drink. So I think it's more about age. I think as freshmen, you're not of age. You're probably only 18. So you don't have that opportunity to drink out. It's illegal. Versus grad students who their age range probably spans from 22 on up, and it would just make sense that grad students would be the most consumers of alcohol in this group. So this is just a continuation of the alcohol consumption. I really just wanted to know, since we saw that, we saw a little bit of sophomores, juniors, seniors drinking. While we did see a lot of the grad students, I still wanted to uncover, does Greek affiliation motivate you more to drink or not to drink? And so you can see here that honestly, it's about what and what. So if you're not Greek affiliated, participants that are not Greek affiliated, 67% of them said they do not drink. They don't have alcohol consumption, which is actually interesting because earlier in that, we learned that mostly freshmen were Greeks. So if mostly freshmen are Greeks, then we would have a higher non-alcohol consumption because they're underage. Versus it, but actually you still see that, hey, we still have people who are drinking. So there's a high non. I think that would probably lean toward the freshmen, and then the yes to the older students who are Greek affiliated, that do not have Greek affiliation. Versus we do see this Greek affiliation, and we see that those participants are on the lower end. They do not drink alcohol, and some of them do drink alcohol. So there is a interesting fluctuation here between the two, and I think that a lot of that has to do with just freshmen versus older and also having the money to go out to eat, which I think we'll talk about in just a second. So availability of alcohol is important to me when I pick a place to eat away from home. A lot of people say strongly disagree. And I think that just goes into people aren't generally going out to eat or eating away from home to drink. Most of it is for necessity. And I think I talked about this in my focus group session, where a lot of people are eating out for necessity versus for an experience. And this actually shows that content as well, where we see that there is a strong disagree. It doesn't matter if I'm going out to eat and looking for alcohol consumption. That doesn't deter me from actually wanting to go to a specific place. So I think that has a lot to do with just eating out as an experience versus eating out as a necessity. I said this in my notes, but I think that a lot of these responses just goes back to the convenience and the place that in the cultural traditional foods and that are authentic to the area. So Lubbock is in West Texas. West Texas is pretty much known for its Tex-Mex, and honestly, being very close to the New Mexico border, there's probably even a stronger Hispanic influence on their meals and their food and their traditions. And so you see that Mexican pretty much topped all of the food types that were listed, and rightfully so. West Texas is pretty much known for its Tex-Mex, and it makes sense that is the food of choice because I'm sure it's really good. We also have pizza, wings, burgers that came up. That came up a lot as well. But you know what was interesting was a lot of the others that were listed actually was categorized as seafood. So I think that if seafood had been a category here, it probably would have still ranked very last, but it is something that people are interested in eating out there. Okay, how much money do you normally spend per meal and drink? So I think we talked about this earlier as far as the income aspect, and $8 is pretty much the average of how much people are spending. $8 is not a high cost meal. It's probably fairly cheap, and I think if this actually includes a meal and a drink, this is a very, very cheap meal. So students are, they're not making a lot of money, and so this aspect is really shown here in the responses, where only $8 is like our peak. You see that it ranged from 0 to 20. 20 was not the lowest. $4 was the lowest, because I'm sure that it's very hard to find a good meal for $4 with a drink. However, 13, once we get toward those 10s and moving on up, we tend to slack off here. So people are generally trying to look for a meal that includes drink as well for under $10. So I'm going to try to speed this up. I follow companies I like online. So mostly neutral. Seems like a lot of participants they don't really mind. They can go either way when it comes to actually having to follow a company that they like. So do you download apps of restaurants you like? Again, they do tend to download apps, and I think that actually goes into what the other slide was trying to say, is that do they follow them on social media? So I think there's more opportunities for discounts, special offerings, royalty points when you actually download that app versus if you follow a brand or organization online. So I think that's what really is speaking here, is that there's just more opportunity to save money and to have rewards and to build up points when you actually download the app. So where are you most likely to come across advertisement? Looks like a lot of people are seeing advertisements via internet that's not social media. What I think that looks like is probably in app, which what we just spoke about in that last slide is in apps. They'll probably see them sponsored on Google or sponsored on Yahoo or some type of search engine, or even just they're seeing something and they just randomly pop up on like a sponsored ad. Another one is social media and emails. Email marketing is very huge for restaurants. I think that is one of the best opportunities to connect with people is via email, especially as college students. They're always checking their email. So I clearly can see why internet, social media, and email pretty much rank very high here. People don't watch a lot of TV anymore, and they definitely don't listen to radio. So I wanted to look more into the restaurant loyalty programs. Here, it looks like the loyalty programs, a lot of people aren't a part of those loyalty programs. And I wanted to dive more into like the classification matter here. And yes, it did. Freshmen are more likely to be a loyalty program member. Again, income is one of the bigger topics here. It's a motivator. If I can save money, I need to ensure that I'm a loyalty member here. If I'm only spending money, this amount of money every week on a specific type of meal, I want to ensure I'm getting my bang for my buck. I want to ensure I'm getting like perks and discounts. So I think that's really why we see freshmen being the most in tune when it comes to loyalty programs. What is the most important of these three? So quality, something that we talked about in the focus group. Again, quality is so important, and I think it really makes the difference between the experience. If the quality is there, then the experience might be there. I feel like a lot of that is interdependent with each other, but I'm very surprised that price was actually ranked this high. I feel like a lot of people don't think about price, but they also think about price. So interesting enough, price actually ranked second, but I feel like quality and experience sometimes is interdependent from each other. And lastly, I wanted to talk about eating out decisions. So it looks like a lot of the participants are relying on themselves to make those decisions for them. However, 43.5% of participants also believe that they rely on someone else to talk to let them know about eating out decisions. So diving into the classifications, it looks like freshmen are more reliant on someone else. And, I think that has a lot to do with not having insight about Lubbock, not knowing where to go. They're probably low on income or cash, so they want to go somewhere cheap. They don't know where to eat, or they just don't have that adventureness in them to actually explore. So, which rightfully so. If you're new to any type of campus or any city, it's very difficult to know where you should go. So you're going to rely on a lot of reviews, a lot of other people to share that background with you. So overall, throughout this entire presentation, we talked about the classifications and if freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors, grad students versus Greek affiliation or non-Greek affiliation mattered between the where people go, how do they spend their money, and if they drink or not. A lot of that, my recommendations here, my overall findings are freshmen tend to be more curious about things. And I think that's a great thing. I think that if we're targeting restaurants, we want to ensure that they're cost efficient, that they are close in proximity to the campus or even on campus. But I don't think catering to freshmen solely is going to be the right thing to do. You're going to want to cater toward older crowds, where people who are more open to explore options are going, they're going to want to see and experience those restaurants. So, and while I don't think that classifications really matter, I do think that if we're thinking about alcohol, if a place should serve alcohol or not, I think those are things that we should think about. But I also think that there are opportunities to have other types of cuisines, like healthy options, or options that aren't truly like a late night type of style dinner, or quick bites. They're more healthy, they're pick-me-up types of meals. I think those are opportunities to have here on the campus. I didn't see that in any of the data, and I think that that's an opportunity to bring something unique and something fresh to this area and for this particular audience. Overall, participants, they do like to drink. It's not everything. It's not something that truly deters them or even motivates them to visit a restaurant. There's more to a restaurant than just the alcohol opportunity, and you should capitalize on knowing that alcohol is not king here. Variety, cost efficiency, and proximity, along with experience and quality, are all of these important factors. And the next restaurant that comes into Lubbock or into TTU should deliver on that.